Welcome to HB Reddit Stories. Today we will see stories of r/am I the a-hole. Am I the a-hole for refusing to move out even though my roommate is 7 months pregnant? Hi guys, last week my roommate Becca found out she is not only pregnant but 7 months along. She texted me that we had to talk today and I had assumed she would be moving out soon for more space when the baby comes. Instead, she told me I have to move out to make space for the nursery and her baby daddy to move in. I'm on a terrible salary and cannot afford anywhere else to live, plus she wants me to move out right now so she can prepare for the baby. Even if I wanted to move out now, the apartment rentals in my area are either too expensive or well below living standards, so I don't want to move. She went absolutely crazy the moment I told her I wouldn't move out, because I'm ruining her motherhood experience by not letting her family live together. I pay rent here and my name's on the lease until at least the end of the year. I'm not gonna pull out of the lease, and I told her that if she wants her little family together that she should move and I'll find someone to half the cheap rent with. That made her start crying and saying how I just want to ruin her life, to the point her baby daddy had to console her and tell me to get out of their way already. I've not heard her stop crying since, but I think I'm totally valid that I don't want to leave. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to move out? Top comments. Not the a-hole. This is a her problem, not a you problem. She wants the cheap rent for her and her BD. Your name is on the lease, you pay rent, she can't kick you out. However, be prepared for a very uncomfortable living situation from now on. Where does the BD live now? If she wants to move him in, he has a place already. Can she not move in with him? OP replies. BD lives with his mom. It's been a bad roommate situation for years, but the rent is super cheap for where we live, so I've dealt with her. Honestly, I don't even know for sure if she actually is pregnant and just wants me out. Not the a-hole, your name is on the lease and you both live there. The audacity to tell you to move out is outrageous. Loudly crying face. OP replies. She has been a nightmare in general as a roommate, but this takes the cake. Not the a-hole. Her pregnancy, her relationship, her problem. The baby is not your responsibility, her life is not your responsibility, you didn't get her pregnant and you don't owe her anything. Why can't she move in with her baby daddy? OP replies. He still lives with his mom. She's kinda crazy, but this has been the worst it's been. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my daughter-in-law, OMG, not everything is about you, when she got emotional over a cat? I have had ongoing issues with my daughter-in-law, 33F. She tends to make a lot of situations about her, even when it doesn't seem appropriate. Really, she is very sensitive and it happens almost every even. My son, 35M, and she have been married for 5 years, and while I've tried to get along with her, this habit is becoming harder to deal with. Recently, during a family gathering, we were talking about our old family cat. This cat has been dead for 12 years. She has never met this cat and I don't even think she has seen a picture of her. The conversation was lighthearted, with us sharing fond memories of the cat, mostly about how dumb she was an orange cat and had a single brain cell. Out of nowhere, my daughter-in-law started crying and talking about how sad it was that the car is dead. She got really emotional, and the whole conversation shifted to comforting her. People were either trying to get her to calm down and standing around confused/uncomfortable. This has happened before and multiple people have brought it up. Usually she ends up crying and my son is very overprotective of her at this point. I think she has cried at almost every event. In the moment, I was frustrated and said, OMG, not everything is about you, you didn't even know the cat. My son immediately got defensive and told me I was being insensitive, and she started crying harder, and now both of them are upset with me. My son think I was a jerk and need to apologize. Am I the a-hole for saying that when she got emotional over a cat? Top comments. Not the a-hole. Part of being an adult is learning how to control your emotions. Yes, cat's dying is sad, but her response is not appropriate. OP replies. It's as frustrating, she will cry at a drop of the hat. It remind me of a young child. Not to mention if you are talking to her and she starts to cry, everything is confused and asking what you did. She once cried when I asked her for her apple dumpling recipe. Info. So she's cried at every event and your response has been, she needs to stop, instead of, hey, son, I'm concerned, is your wife okay? Is she this emotional at home? Is she in therapy? OP replies. At the beginning I was worried and asked those questions, you okay ECT, over time I just started to walk away or ignoring it. First time I have ever been harsh about this. Not the a-hole. She sounds insufferable. To salvage the relationship, I'd probably go to both of them and say something like, the way I snapped wasn't kind and I apologize for my reaction. In truth, I am concerned. Getting overly emotional so often over innocuous topics/situations makes me worried you're dealing with something deeper. I'm here to support you in finding an appropriate person who may be able to help you get to the root of things. Moving forward, we will remove ourselves from the situation to afford you the privacy you need in these emotional moments to gather yourself. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my brother girlfriend to F off? We've been battling 120 heat where I live over the last week. My brother and his girlfriend came over to use my pool yesterday. I have 3 children and they are playing in the pool and I see my brother's girlfriend yelling at my kids. I asked her what her problem was and she goes off saying she just paid $1,000 for her hair and she doesn't want my children to jump and splash getting it wet. I told her I paid $100,000 for this pool for my kids to be able to jump and splash it so she can F off about her $1,000 hair. She got butthurt and made my bother leave. My wife thinks I could have been nicer, but I cannot imagine some telling my children how to play in their home and in their pool. My brother thinks I was wrong for rubbing my money in her face, but I feel like she started it talking about her $1,000 hair. My brother thinks I was being insensitive, but I said maybe his girlfriend will think twice before talking to other people's kids like that in their own home. Top comments. Not the a-hole, why is she sitting by the pool then? Also, what kind of hair costs $1,000? Is it a wig? I'd understand if she had a medical condition and was sensitive maybe. If not and it's just extensions or whatever then she can move. OP replies. It's fancy braids. If you're spending $1,000 on your hair, spend $5.99 on a bathing cap. Story doesn't even make sense. She came to use the pool, but complained about getting wet. OP replies. While she was sitting in the lounge chair that's in the pool. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not letting my dad copy my brother's letter to me so my half-siblings can think he wrote to them too? My older brother Jamie died 7 months ago. He was 20. Before he died he wrote a letter for me and another for our dad. His letter to me was him apologizing for leaving, saying he loved me, he wanted me to have a good life and things like that. Dad's letter was different. Jamie told Dad we always knew he cheated on our mom, that he was disgusted to be his son, that he didn't tell him he was sick because he didn't want Dad to fake grieve him like he did our mom, he didn't want Dad's tears or anguish, that he felt like Dad not getting the chance to say goodbye was justice for his affair child and for the hell he put the 2 of us through when we were so young and losing our mom. I only know the content of Dad's letter because he told me about it and wanted to know if I felt similar in any way and I told him I did. My dad had other kids with his wife, the affair partner, or one of them. My half-sisters are 11 and 10 and my half-brother is 8. I'm 17 because I know I didn't mention that. And the timeline was mom was sick for like a year. She died when I was 5 and my brother was 8. Dad was a dad again only 6 months after she died and his wife was living with us before that point. Dad never explained it to us. He relied on us being young, and boys, and not knowing enough about pregnancy to realize. My brother always kept his distance from our half-siblings and he wanted no part of being their brother. I feel similarly but I'll try to be nice because we live in the same house. But now that Jamie's gone I feel like I lost my only sibling and I don't love or care about my half-siblings or think of them as real siblings. Which might be why I'm resisting here, but anyway. Dad knows I have a letter from Jamie. But Jamie didn't write anything to our half-siblings. So Dad wants to make a copy of the letter and make it look like it's to all of us, so edit it. He said ever since the girls found out I got one, they've been upset and they grieve for Jamie too and they don't deserve the weight of being unloved by their brother and knowing they'll never get to have a kind message from Jamie. He said Jamie never said I love you to them or hugged them or gave them any of his heart. And it's not their fault. But some of the pain can be eased if they think he thought of them. He said we'll just say I was being possessive of the letter and it was never just mine. I didn't agree to share the letter and I told Dad I don't want him to edit it. He got really mad at me and asked me how I can have such a small age gap between me and my half-sister, how I could live with them for 11 years and not want to save them from this. He asked me if I had become such a monster. Am I the a-hole? Top comments. Not the a-hole. It's yours. Lying like your dad suggests will always be found out. Keep your letter safe. Your dad will probably take it. Opie replies. It's not in the house, so luckily he won't be able to take it. Not the a-hole. I would say he's the a-hole, and instead of doing right by his children, he continues his pattern of trying to patch the broken areas with more dishonesty. Your half-siblings may be young now, like you were when your dad began messing up your lives, but as they get older they will see right through his lies, just as you and Jamie did, and he will just have more broken relationships piling up. Keep that letter somewhere safe where he cannot get it, because he's the exact type of person to go behind your back to make his desired plan happen regardless of what you want. So sorry for your loss. Opie replies. Thank you. The letter is safe. It's not even in the house. So my dad won't be able to get his hands on it, which is really lucky because I think he'd look when I'm not around if it was. He got really mad at me and asked me how I can have such a small age gap between me and my half-sister, how I could live with them for 11 years. Good grief. Not the a-hole. About the age gap, Dad. I think that was all down to you and your mistress. So your brother's final words was to tell your dad what an a-hole he is, and his response is to be a bigger a-hole? Opie replies. His final words to Dad were that, and yes, Dad decided that he needed to keep with the lies and stuff. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not helping my brother with his rent after he showed up to pick it up with a new tattoo? My brother asked me if I could please help him pay his rent. It was only $800, so I agreed. When he came by my place to pick it up, I noticed he had a brand new tattoo on his calf. Like it still had the plastic on it from the artist. I asked him what the F, and he said he had booked the tattoo months ago and that it was an artist that was hard to get to see. I told him I changed my mind, so he had to go get it from our parents that berated him for his stupidity and poor decision making. He says that I'm the a-hole because I agreed without any conditions and that our parents make him feel stupid about his decisions. I don't think I should help him when he had the money and chose to spend it stupidly. Top comments. Not the a-hole, he spent his rent money on a tattoo, and didn't tell you that's why he needed the money. I wouldn't be loaning anyone money who'd use theirs on a frivolous purchase like that. I've lent money to friends in tough spots because extra bills came up and they didn't have grocery money, or needed an unexpected car repair and couldn't afford the full bill, but no a-hole here if they spent their money on something like a tattoo, that should only be paid for with truly disposable income. I don't have much sympathy when they're short on rent. Not the a-hole, he should have had the money put aside for the tattoo when he booked the appointment. Not paid for it instead of rent when the appointment came about. He needs to be made to feel stupid about his decision. Entia. You'd never see the money you lent him again. I spent years bailing out my older sister. Rent here, car payment there. She needs groceries, my niece needs school clothes. I ended up being a house for her and my niece to live with me and keep her in a school she was doing well in, money I had been saving to open my own busnias. She'd miss her, even greatly lowered rent payments to me, not pay her share of utilities, car insurance, etc. Before it was all said and done, she owed me north of $20,000. That didn't stop her from taking vacations to California, or buying herself a new car once her credit had recovered. Thanks in large part to her stiffing me, I ended up having to kick her out, not because she was costing me a fortune but because she couldn't even show me the basic respect you give a roommate, cleaning up after yourself, viciously attacking me personally for asking her to do so. Never saw a dime back from her, and somehow I was always the a-hole. It didn't help that my parents continue to enable her to this day. I'm low contact with my parents these days and been no contact with my sister for over 2 years. Cutting her out of my life has been nothing but positive. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not doing a favor for my dad and telling him I don't owe him or his favorite wife and kids favors? After our mom died, Dad told me and my siblings, 17M, 16F and 14M, that he was glad that part of his life was over and he was going to find someone he actually loved and wanted to be with, and we better be ready because he wasn't slowing down for us. This was 10 years ago. He met a few women before his wife of 9 years. They were together a few months before they got married and she was pregnant right away. Dad said he knew she was the one. He was finally in love. That mom was his biggest regret in life. My sister would cry, which annoyed Dad. He'd say we should want him to be happy when he sacrificed his own happiness for us. He's a better dad to the kids he has with his wife. He's there on their birthdays, remembers to buy them gifts, takes them out for ice cream, or for special time with him. He comes home earlier to spend time with them before they go to bed and helps with their homework. He never did that with us even after he started changing. My sister and brother really wanted him to for the longest time. But I always knew he was a crap parent and that he wasn't going to change toward us. We always fought. He told me the three of us were born selfish. That we wanted him to be unhappy for our sakes. I told him he basically dumped his issues onto 3 grieving kids and didn't give a f about what that did to us. I reminded him that my brother was only 4 years old when we lost Mom. Dad's response was that if I cared so much about them, I should care even more about my younger half-siblings. I told him I didn't. I have told him that a few times since my first half-sibling was born. In truth, I never spend any time with the halves or engage with them. It's me and my brother and sister, and I put my time and love into them. My siblings have reached out to Dad and asked for him to love them and spend time with them, but his focus is on the family he wants, his favorite family as I think of them. I don't think of them as mine. Dad's wife and one of his favorite kids had birthdays a day apart. His gift for one was delayed/late or whatever, and he wasn't going to pick both up on time, already a day late for one of them, so he asked me to do a favor for him and pick up one gift while he picked up the other. I said no. He told me I could do a favor for him since he's my dad, yada yada. I said no. The day came and went and I didn't get it. He freaked out and told me I was going to ruin the birthday. He told me I could have done a favor for him as we're all family. I told him I don't owe him or his wife or his favorite kids any favors. I reminded him that he owed his kids being a good dad and he wasn't to the 3 of us, so I'm not going to save his butt or do something that makes his favorite family happy because innocent or not, they are not my problem. He said I was such a child. Then he got my uncle to say how disappointed he was that I acted so petty. Am I the a-hole? Top comments. Not the a-hole, your dad is the biggest louse of the year. The idea that he thought to tell 3 grieving children that he was glad their mother died and now he could get on with his life and marry another was reprehensible. I wouldn't have done squat for him either. You and your siblings need to work to getting away from this monster and cut all contact as soon as you can. Not the a-hole, but your dad's cruel behavior is monstrous and inexcusable. By telling 3 children who lost their mother in childhood that their mom was his biggest regret in life, your dad's words and treatment of you was abusive and neglectful, worsening your trauma and providing no empathy or compassion, which seems suggestive of a highly malignant narcissistic behavior pattern. Telling trauma victims/survivors that their father regretted the beloved mother they lost also communicates to children that they are part of his biggest regret and basically that you ruined his life and he wished you'd never existed. He's the selfish a-hole. It's possibly only a matter of time before this replacement family gets flushed too. At least they got some love bombing and loving parenting from him rather than the abuse, neglect, gaslighting, and manipulation he seems to have dealt out to you and your siblings. I'm glad that you're looking out for your siblings and that you stay/are close. Your dad wants to f y'all over, abandon you, shame you, then guilt, manipulate, and exploit you. He's a bully, and when his efforts to get his way don't work and his projection gets no traction, he recruits his brother to try to guilt, judge, and shame you. Similar personality types/enabler sounds like. How dare your dad or your uncle try to pull that snow job on you or your siblings? The best way to honor your mom is for you to decide, but I can't imagine anyone with a heart would fault or blame you or your siblings if you decided to go no contact with him. Info: at first it sounds like your mom died when you and your siblings were 17, 16, and 14 years old, but later it sounds like you reminded your dad that your brother was only 4 when your mom died. Was it that y'all were 4, 6, and 7, when you lost your mom but your dad didn't announce to you he was flushing y'all and happy to move on until 10 years later? Opie replies. We're 17, 16, and 14 years old now. Mom died and dad made his announcement 10 years ago. I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, make sure like, comment, share and subscribe the channel HB Reddit Stories.